Do you want me to do my clap thing?
Go.
We good?
This is the Luca Health Podcast, the show that goes beyond sport to understand the people behind the performances.
Welcome back to the Luca Podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Phil Beaumont, Director of Rugby at Northampton School for Boys, affectionately known as NSB. It's also great to have NSB Old Boy, current school trustee and Luca Chief Medical Officer, Professor Bill Ribbans, with us today. At NSB, rugby isn't just a sport, but a culture, a community, and a commitment to excellence. Phil's crafted a holistic, layered youth programme from under 12 through to under 18, prioritising not just rugby skills, but leadership, resilience, and lifelong confidence. He's pioneered a community model, harnessing parent volunteers and local support to create an ecosystem where school and grassroots club rugby flourish together, and it's the envy of all schools up and down the country, private and state alike. Excited to get into the evolution of rugby at NSB, the success it's delivered, and explore whether it's a model that could possibly be replicated by others. Phil, Bill, thank you for making the time today. How are we?
Very well, thank you, Nick. Yeah, great to be the start of the season and have a podcast with yourselves, and again working on our partnership with you this season.
And Bill?
Yeah, had a very enjoyable day. Been here all day on a Saturday, and topped off by an incredibly impressive performance by the NSB first 15 today.
So they've just demolished Mill Hill 57-7. I heard it was going to be close earlier today, Phil, with a smattering of Saracens players. What have we just witnessed?
Yeah, Mill Hill we played last year at senior level, and Mill Hill took the win, so they've come here with confidence today. We know last year we underperformed, and the players this year are different to the players last year. We have the most exciting cohort of players across the whole school, but especially at first team level that the school's ever had. So we're expecting big things from the year. We've set ourselves some high standards, and we have worked hard to go after week by week each game, but we targeted today for a big result and performance. But we asked about the performance and the processes, and what's nice is what we worked on in pre-season transpired straight to the pitch, and we scored some well executed team tries rather than individuals therefore just getting over the whitewash.
Yeah, absolutely. It was very, very impressive indeed. And we're sat here in NSB's Sports Centre. You might be able to hear a basketball game in the background. It's well and truly alive and kicking here. Today's felt like a bit of a celebration of sport. What is it? The Saturday the 6th of September. We're at the start of the season, and we've just had your induction to Rugby Day. Is that what we call it? What's happened today? We've been here since 8:30. Phil, talk us through the last 8 hours in your life.
I arrived at 6 a.m. actually. I was drilling holes on the first team pitch to put the flags in this morning, just to make sure every level of detail today was perfect. The shirts were out, the balls were pumped up. We call our season opener, and it really gets our season going, but we do everything in one day, and everything has a positive impact on everything else. I've probably done 4 days work on a Saturday morning, but it's all been worthwhile. So I started off meeting all the coaches, and we had a staff CPD session, trying to layer the culture of what we want from our coaches to disseminate to students and players. Everything from common terminology to coaching fundamentals to the realistics of logistics on a training night and match night, but also what happens when there is a medical scenario and how therefore we work supporting the players through their return to play, and how we work with Luca and their app as well for anything that's concussion based. Following that, we've rolled straight into a second team showcase session where the coaches have watched us play in that, and then taken some of the ideologies and the drills and practices we're doing, and then put that straight into their own sessions. So you've seen 4 age groups and 200 boys out on the bottom level having their first session of the year, 2 days back into school, excited to go and play next week against Ipswich as one of our block fixtures. We also welcomed the Year 7s on their first open session, where we had 50 plus boys have their first experience and taste of NSB rugby in the sunshine, being submerged into all the age groups, having that positive culture. And then we've ended that morning with a parent meeting to talk through to the parents the expectations, the celebration and the opportunities that NSB Rugby is going to have for them this year and over the next 7 years throughout their NSB careers. And that then has a guard of honour from every student lining up to create a guard of honour to welcome our first team to run out on home turf on our first team pitch, known as the Fortress amongst closed doors for NSB, to go and put in a performance against 2 top schools to go and compete at the highest level and put on a showcase of how good schoolboy rugby can be. As you say, Nick, both have a good pedigree of academy players in there. I think there was 29 or 30 academy players out on the pitches today, which was great to see. And you've got that mix of schoolboy rugby level there. England scouts on the sideline watching, Saracens and Saints both watching a high performance game where it was not far off Premiership standard. So mate, great execution, and we ended up on the right side of the score sheet today, and with a strong defeat for Mill Hill, but they'll bounce back, and at the start of the season that's you want to know where you're at and what you can work on.
An extremely good summary after having been here since 6 o'clock in the morning, so thank you for that. I'm exhausted, so I don't know how you feel, to be honest. I want to get into the model and how you've developed that, Phil, over the last 11 years since you've been at the school. We know that NSB is a complete outlier, a complete anomaly, in that it's a state school that punches well above its weight and punches with the biggest rugby schools in the country, and also, punches above its weight like academically as well. And it's produced the likes of England and Saints great Courtney Laws, World Cup winner Steve Thompson, Premiership flyer Ollie Slightholme, Tom Collins, James Grayson, Rotimi Segun, Paul Diggin, etc. It is a conveyor belt, as I said. Bill, why don't you talk to us as an old boy? I think you were playing rugby here 60 years ago, if you don't mind me saying, something like that, about the heritage of the school. Maybe some thoughts on how you've seen things develop slightly in that time.
Well, things have evolved enormously, Nick. As you said, I realised next year it'll be 60 years since I first played rugby on here, was introduced to it, and given me enormous pleasure. Managed to play at our local club until I was 43, so enormously grateful for everything NSB did. It's always had a sporting culture, particularly rugby. I remember going into assembly every morning, and they had the honours board above the entrance into the hall, and there we had 1968 Bob Taylor and Brian West names on there. Brian West had only left school 18 months beforehand, and he was a British Lion, as was Bob Taylor, who went on to be captain of England and president of the RFU. And there was many other examples going through. So although those were the amateur days, there was always an expectation in the 60s and 70s that NSB should produce junior international rugby players. And the thing I would say about it, Nick, is that although NSB is probably not unique, it's highly unusual in that it's managed as a state school not only to produce incredible athletes in many sports, but also maintain very high academic standards and push culture, the arts and music and things like that. And it's an incredibly holistic educational programme. And back here now as a governor and now a trustee, I go in and I think, Phil, I'm right in saying is that all the year sevens, when they come, all the boys have to do dance. And
they do.
Things like that. And
wow.
so it's just getting them to be athletic and movement. And there's always, kind of transferable skills from all of these things. So although rugby is undoubtedly the flagship sport here, the school has and continues to have incredible success in many other sports, football, athletics.
It's interesting, our PE department has the common debate about which sport is therefore most successful, and every coach will argue their own corner, but it's really difficult when you're in national finals in lots of them. So national finals in football, basketball, rugby, water polo, cross country, athletics, and everyone's so passionate about what we do. We have some fantastic lunchtime discussions.
I bet you do. Thank you for that, Bill. Yeah, I didn't know the heritage and just how far like that sporting tradition of excellence goes back. But yeah, I guess you just need a few success stories early on, and then there's that expectation.
You do. I mean, as you know, Nick, and you've been part of the Saints setup. You know, we have Northampton, and the area is a rugby. Is a rugby town, and NSB has always been a feeder to Saints, even in the amateur era, and that has just solidified really in the professional era, particularly in the last decade.
So Nick, if you look back from when I started 11 years ago, we had one team per age group, but we've always had, being a non-selective state school, 220 boys per year group, and we have 80 really enthusiastic boys trial in their first week as an 11-year-old boy. Some that have played in clubs, some that haven't, and we were, due to infrastructure, struggling to facilitate opportunities for them to play. So we saw a drop off from that. So I'm known as a bit of a dreamer, and having a long-term vision, and I'm in it for the long haul. And I've worked really hard over the last decade to try and therefore create rugby to be a sport for everybody, with opportunities for everybody. So we had no choice but to grow our programme. One, because our performances were not that of the peer schools with only one team, and the large independent schools wouldn't play us because we couldn't facilitate enough fixtures for all of their students to therefore have opportunities to play. So we had to reinvent the wheel, and that's really hard to do when you have no budget to do it. So I stole that club model, and a model you see more in New Zealand, where you involve the community coaches. And I looked at the sideline and went, we have a lot of wealth of experience on the sideline. I remember being there with Connor Tupai and Ollie Slightholme, looking at John and Paul, going, two previous pro players, coaching in a local club down the bottom at the Scouts. Why don't we try and look at therefore having a model where we involve these parents? Paul Grayson then became involved with us as well, and at every age group we found a wealth of talent that was happy to try and support to make NSB be the number one in the country on a provision. And if you get the provision right, the outcomes therefore follow. So we now have four coaches per age group, all the way from 12s to seniors, but only one teacher involved in that age group, and the rest are working on community volunteers, passionate people that have an emotional attachment to the school, that want to see NSB flourish and turn the tides of having an opportunity and offering the same opportunities of what all the other top independent schools therefore have. We now have a circuit that is on that level, because they allow us to play enough fixtures, and the results at the end of those fixtures are always competitive. And on some games will be on the right side of the score sheet, and some games not so much. As we go through the years, we're starting to see that's blossomed, and cup runs have developed, and we've started to therefore be at the latter stages of competitions at 14s, 15s, 16s and the 18s. We're joint top now this year for being at the national final 3 times at under 15 level, winning that 2 out of 3. If we go and therefore get to the final again this year, or therefore win the National Cup, I think we'll be creating history of something that's never been done before.
It's staggering actually the success you've had, and also that you've tapped into the goodwill of locals, of parents. I don't know, I get a sense that people aren't volunteering or giving of their time in a way that they perhaps used to be. It sounds like you've tapped into that very, very neatly. Is that sustainable moving forward? I guess it has to be, because there's no alternative. We look at some of the other schools that you're playing against, and I think you referenced in one of the sessions earlier that at the big public schools, the rugby budgets can be as much as £500,000, and you're effectively replicating that, but I dread to think at what fraction.
We are, as you say, working on goodwill, and the model works and the model's sustainable because most of the parents will follow their children through the school, which leaves me with a annual job of seeing who therefore gets in and gets offered a place at the school, and then actually looking down the list at parents therefore I can use and facilitate. So today was great. This morning I met 2 parents that I know coach at local clubs, and we're going to talk about therefore them becoming volunteers within the school as well, and trying to grow our programme that way. So we're always evolving and we're always developing. Success helps because you get more involvement, and the Saints have been fantastic, and you create this snowball effect where it's not people just giving up volunteers now, it's a lifestyle choice. They know we're NSB, they understand the rugby programme's amazing. If they weren't helping, they'd be watching anyway, and we create that environment that everybody wants to be a part of it. There's such a hubbub of positivity around NSB rugby. It's why we all get up in the morning. It's what we talk about on WhatsApp groups. It's what we talk about after we're off work at 9 o'clock, and we give each other phone calls, or even in the community we'll go and have good conversations about it.
I mean, I really do get the sense that it is absolutely infectious here. There is just a positive energy and that feel-good factor, which is lovely to see. In terms of when you find time for it, you know, you don't have structured sports afternoons. I don't believe like some of the schools that you're playing against, where I was lucky enough to go to Uppingham, and we would have a games afternoon on a Tuesday and a Thursday and Saturday afternoon. So when are these volunteers giving of their time? When are the boys as well? Because they're busy in classrooms and they're achieving in exams as well as playing rugby.
You're right, they're students first, and they have in a state school follow a state school timetable which doesn't have a games afternoon. So they'll have their normal PE lessons twice a week, but they're at sporadic times through the year, so you can't do a collective session with them in the same way as you would in independent school. So we do wrap around from that. So all our age groups will train twice a week after school for an hour and a quarter, but then we have ancillary sessions on as well. So Monday morning you'll see our senior boys from 16 upwards in the gym from 7 a.m. Some of them will be getting in the car at 6:15 to be here. We have a kicking session on a Wednesday morning, again at 7:45, and we have pool sessions that start at 7:30. The under 14s and under 15s will have a morning S&C session on a Wednesday, and they'll be doing those sessions then. And then every night you'll see 250 boys out on the field taking part in rugby activities. But the culture is wider than that, because you see the same in the sports hall, that you'll have boys shooting for basketballs at 7:30 every morning as well. The water polo players are in practicing water polo and swimming lengths in the pool, and you'll have specialist one-to-one sessions with a variety of athletes, mornings, lunchtimes and after school. We're a school that never sleeps, and the season is flat out, but we do it for the boys, to give them the best opportunity, that even though they're not in an independent school where it's tailored to be successful for school sport and give them a better opportunity for sport, we make those opportunities happen for them so they're not disadvantaged.
Yeah, amazing. And Bill, I think people might look at NSB and just say, okay, cool, you guys are doing very well, but you're obviously cherry picking the very best local talent, and we see that at some of the schools that you play against. Lots of rugby scholarships and this quasi professionalisation of school sport across various different sort of aspects of the wider sporting provision. But Bill, we were having a conversation before coming on air here, speaking to a parent while you're watching the game earlier, who was suggesting that NSB does do just that. But why don't you actually put it on the record as a trustee as to how it works in terms of getting into this place?
Yeah, I mean, the school has a very strict admissions policy, and that when children apply to come to NSB into year 7, they all take an aptitude examination. They're all then graded according to aptitude and then split up into, I think, Phil, it's five different aptitude groups. And then there's then a random selection of an equal number of children from each of those 5 aptitudes. So academically, we have an incredible mix of academic potential. And we're, as I've said earlier, we're incredibly proud of what we managed to achieve academically here, and recent Ofsted was inspection in the spring was simply outstanding.
Yeah, so there's going to be no shortage of applicants moving forward, and I think, you've just opened a second school as well, haven't you?
Yeah, we opened Northampton School, which is on the north side of Northampton, 2 years ago, and that will go through from year 7 to year 11. That's a mixed school as opposed to NSB, which is male only to year 11, and then the year 12 and 13 NSB are mixed, and the Northampton School students will have the opportunity to come here for sixth form.
Nick, building on that, you look out there today and the result and the players we put out there, that's our cup squad. And the National Cup, for those that don't know, limit you to having a maximum of 3 external players that join the school at sixth form or in year 11. And the idea about that was to stop the more affluent schools in history having the monopoly on the market and talent IDing and creating talent hubs of all the best players, and creating an unfair advantage based on economic ability. But for us, that is our cup team. Those are the boys that were with us at 15s and 16s and 14s in those National Cup finals previously. It's exciting this year because both our upper six won the National Cup at under 15s and our lower six were finalists. So we've got a great depth in there, but it's because we work hard with them and lower down the school and create that level where the quality in their skill level actually has already flourished, and we're seeing the reaps of our rewards from the investments we put in lower down now at first team level.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was in that CPD session with your staff or your coaches earlier, and everyone is singing from the same hymn sheet, and it very much echoed some of those academy or like professional changing rooms where I've been in, where you can move up and down teams, and so I can understand how you've been in the NSB system for a couple of years and all of a sudden you're going to develop very, very quickly, and when you come through to them playing in the sixth form, you've just got so much talent to pick from. Phil, so where do we go from here? You've obviously you saw that the model had to change, or you needed to do things in order to find fixtures that were competitive, because the local ones were going to be mismatches, yet you weren't going to be able to play against the schools that you needed to until you had depth in the programme. You're effectively operating like a junior academy, it looks like, having watched the game today. But what do the next kind of couple of years look like? Where else do you want to double down in terms of how do you take it to even the next level, and what does that look like? Is that more kids, more boys going on to play professionally? Is it adding more teams at the various age groups? Sort of what moves the needle for you in the next, let's say, 2 years?
Great question. So firstly, our DNA and our mission statement is that every child leaves us continuing to play rugby at the highest level they possibly can and achieves their potential. The subline to that is we stretch boys past what they believe their own potential is. And some of those students will go on annually, as you talked about earlier, and go and get professional contracts, and that happens for us on an annual basis, and we're very fortunate of that. But we are one part of their jigsaw piece.
Yeah.
The layer below that, it's about making sure that they're successful as academics off the field and on the field. So we work really hard with them having mentors to support them through and looking what those journeys look like for them at university, and then have good connections with the universities to try and ensure they carry on playing there. We've transitioned to looking at the post-18 drop-off, and we've worked hard with the local clubs and their first team coaches to work on that transition, and we now have a member of staff that goes into all of those clubs and does those sessions with them for the major 4 local clubs that we work with, and they continue to play there. So even today the ONs have got the first team game. 12 of those boys are ex-NSB boys that are in their first team squad there, and that's a common theme of what you'd seen last year as well, and that's similar to the other local clubs around, that you see the NSB boys continuing to play and come back and play locally. How do we grow the programme? We started off girls rugby last year as our first time we've done girls sevens. Sevens is a hugely growing game, and the girls game is the biggest growing game in sport, and especially girls sport in school at the moment. So we're delighted to have girls up and running off the ground. Steve Housey, a PE teacher, has just joined us from a spell out of education and working inside Harlequin with the women's. So he's going to be spearheading our girls programme with Adam Baker next year and pushing the Sevens circuit. We run a BTEC Sport Level 3 course, and that's designed to allow our sports players an opportunity to progress down a route in which they're likely to go into in post-18 education and develop in the sports industry, and give them a good foundation for that alongside while they manage their sport opportunities. And that's excelling, again, with our lowest ever grade being DDD, and every year having multiple students on star, which opens the doors to multiple universities to go and play where they want to go and play. We do that for basketball, we do that for netball, and we also do it for rugby, being the main cohort of the students. We're at probably capacity on space-wise and pitches, and we use the pitches at the ONs, which is our old boys club, and we've now created a partnership this year with the old scouts to use their pitches as well and create a more collaborative approach to rugby across the community. Next steps, growth of CPD, trying to get all our coaches inside and outside the school to therefore be having similar terminology and understanding from what the professional game looks like and how we can disseminate current trends and support measures in place from them, and therefore coaching terminology to pass down across the whole area. The boys set themselves a goal this year of going to go win the National Cup. Realistically, we're actually more player based and looking at player development for them, but as every 17 and 18 year old student wants something tangible to go after, so we went and tried to break down what their why for that is, and the opportunity to play at Allianz Stadium, Twickenham, is something that for them might be the only time in their lives they get a chance to do, even if they go and make it professionally. So that's their goal this year. Based on the current performance today, that's a realistic target that they could look at. But actually, for me, it's having as many boys continuing to play, and it's not retention, but it's having more people join us. It's great when we find out we have a year 10 want to transfer and try rugby out at the school, and blossom and get to be involved in the programme.
Yeah, superb.
I think it's a really important point that Phil makes, because I think what I've noticed since the advent of professionalism in '96 is that you get these very talented young rugby players who have aspirations to get a professional contract, play for Northampton Saints or whoever, and then fall just short. And I think over time there's been a drop-off, and it has affected junior rugby standards because they're so disappointing that they didn't make it onto professional status. And I think having these close ties with the very good local junior clubs who are playing a good standard in the National League structure is really important for retention, for the quality of junior rugby and the enjoyment. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Phil, is that you've talked about what's drives you. What are the problems of getting to this level, apart from having to try and stay there?
There's multiple challenges, and that's a multifaceted scenario. We have challenges of financial infrastructure is probably the biggest barrier to try and get over. This year, to try and sustain where we are, we're looking for sponsorship, to have sponsorship boards around our first team pitch, just to be able to hold together the programme we have to sustain it. With the rising costs for transport, pitch coverage to try and make it there for maintenance, cost of post-match teas, which is an expectation of a schoolboy game. They're all those basic non-negotiables have a huge financial impact. So to try and do that as a school is really difficult, and we rely on the support of the local community to make that happen, even when there are less coaching costs than there would be in other places. And we're also now in a scenario where we're looking to therefore ask for parental contributions to therefore goes towards that, because we offer provision that creates more opportunity. And the last thing we want to do is limit our provision and limit opportunities because of that being the biggest hurdle. Time is the other one, and balances of players balancing their player load between club rugby, school rugby, and then the other sports on top as well. Whereas we have lots of boys lower down the school that also play football, also play basketball, maybe involved in water polo or swimming as well, and some of them even do athletics on top. And it's managing those players while still having a mantra of go and play as many sports as you can while you're young, but limiting the load on them so they don't therefore get their overuse injuries and they don't end up being fatigued and tired or burn out.
Very interesting. Do you get a kickback for every Saints player that you produce, or is that purely done in coaching hours?
In the short-term way of in the most recent years, I feel absolutely delighted and warm inside, and even when you talk to me about therefore players therefore making it, it still gives me a nice little warm shudder. Yeah. So personal pride, pride of the school. The kickback is the players going on and being really passionate about their school days and the stories that they've done.
Yeah.
We do a mini and junior festival here and a rugby camp for our year 6s and year 7s, and they want to come back and be involved in it. They want to go and hand out the medals. They want to come and walk around the pitch. At a cup game, you will see multiple ex-NSB alumni that are now in the professional game on the sideline, in some cases travelling as far as Newcastle down and from Wales down to come and watch the new generation play in games that they've done previously. So no, there's no formal kickback and we don't have a formal partnership. However, we have a fantastic relationship with the Saints, and the academy coaches work with our players on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, and support us with that. But we also have our coaches go and coach inside that community as well. So none of our coaches coach just inside the NSB community. They all go and coach either in the lower community clubs or they go and coach within the Saints Academy levels, whether that be 17s, PDG, 16s or 18s. They have involvement in multiple different groups, and that probably develops our coaches further because we're constantly pushing our standards of ourselves and also understanding what other environments' needs are as well.
Yeah, totally. I was more asked. Sorry, Bill.
I was just going to say, and also in terms of care, I mean, you provide physiotherapy for injured players, and I noticed today, I think I'm right, that the physiotherapist helping today was the Saints Academy physiotherapist, which allows for close liaison with any injuries.
No, you're right. We have so many boys that therefore are in both environments. It makes sense to try and ensure that we have the best link we can possibly have. So our pitchside care today was Tracy, who also works in the Saints environment as well, and Mark Hopley and Charlie will also come in and do sessions with us as well, but they'll mainly focus on times with those Saints boys.
Yeah.
But when we're fortunate to be in a place where we have so many, that has a huge impact on what we do and allows the other coaches we have to run more specialist S&C while they're running S&C for those boys at the same time. So it just has a rising the tide effect where everybody therefore develops.
No, it keeps standards high and rising, as you said. I was just wondering cheekily whether you're effectively just supplying the next crop of senior academy players, so I wonder whether they could help fund your program. And that leads me on to the plug around sponsorship. I think you said earlier that you had 72 available boards that people could sponsor. Anything from 500 quid, I think I saw earlier, was the entry level.
Yeah, so
all the way up to 2k.
Yeah, we've got different packages from £500 to £2,000 to have a board, and then higher levels of further support from shirt sponsors to better social media packages as well at different levels of sponsorship. We would love to have every board taken up at NSB and try and develop our programme further, offering the boys more opportunities and more coaching, and probably develop again the number of boys that get the same opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're a local business, please get in touch with Phil. If you know local businesses, please share this Instagram reel or however you're going to come across this. The school needs you because it's doing sterling work, and that leads me on to your role in the community, and you are absolutely the nucleus of that, and it's super cool to hear that you're working so closely obviously with the ONs, because the obvious connection there, but also with Scouts, and which are the other local clubs?
So the foremost local clubs to us, where most of our boys are the old Northamptonians, the Old Boys Club.
Yep.
The other bottom of the hill, which joins our school, is the Old Scouts. We then have lots of boys at Bugbrook and some coaches at Environment as well. Northampton Casuals is again a stone throw away. And we have some down at Olney and a few over at Toaster. So we've got a really good relationship with all those clubs and work really hard on trying to make sure that we have a combined messaging for the boys to therefore grow them and put them at the centre of everything we do. And we are in a really good place because there's a lot of talent where they arrive to us from the clubs previously, having done great work, and they arrive at 11 years old in a good place. And we want to try and nurture them in our part of that as they go through to 18, and when they leave, go back to the clubs they're in or go and play a high level.
Yeah, absolutely. Funny that you mentioned Toaster. Bill and myself are actually there tomorrow delivering a similar session to what we did today, onboarding them, the minis and juniors, and I just think actually NSB hopefully is going to act as the nucleus for us to then support ONs, casuals, scouts, everyone in the Northamptonshire area, and support them from a head injury standpoint. And that's because we have this one school that's sort of leading the charge on everything. So I thank you, Phil, for being progressive and forward thinking, and you're putting the flags in the ground at 6 a.m. So you didn't need to take my call last September or whenever we had a chat and talk about how we could potentially help you moving forward. So I do genuinely really thank you for taking a chance on us, and I'm very excited that we're now into the second year of our partnership, which is going to be a multi-decade partnership, obviously. Where else am I going with this? Yeah, so I want to talk about, last question, it's been a long day, how replicable is sort of the model that you've built here, intentionally or not, for other state schools to follow, so that we can have these hubs up and down the country? Like, you are effectively taking care of the greater Northamptonshire area. To what extent does there need to be a Phil Beaumont in every market town in the country? How can people learn the lessons that...
There are lots of little things that are incremental that you can do to develop a rugby programme. First, it's go above and beyond and give the time. Be the figurehead of trying to drive opportunity for children by giving them the hours of training, and then finding whatever those fixtures look like at whatever level you're currently at to create the opportunities for them to play. The more game time players get, the more contact time players get, the more they have a love of the game and want to therefore continue to develop it. When you have that positive love of the game, that's the thing that gets them there the week after. Developing skill level is important with that and will come over a long time period, as long as you can keep them in the game. The next step to give them more opportunity is go and work with your local club. There are volunteers up and down the country that want to make the game better. Look at your sidelines, look at your parents, work out how you can use them in your environment to have more people sending the same message as you and creating a positive culture for something that is giving so much to so many people, which is why we all sit here, because we now want to give back, and we want to make sure that the children we work with or have the opportunity to work with have a better experience than when we did, and therefore we grow the game and the legacy. It's the cliche of leaving the jersey in a better place. There are people there. Go and link up with the RFU. There's some really good coaching courses there. There's some good mentors that want to try and therefore support you technically and develop your coaching. Be open to taking on new coaching. Be open to linking up with the clubs. The clubs are crying out to try and create a link, because it becomes a simonious project where they will therefore also benefit from it in time, and you will also benefit there as well. It's have good conversations with good people, and that makes good things happen, and that will snowball.
Easy. I think the RFU should come down here and see what's going on and formalise it, and then take it out and have a few disciples in a few different corners of the country.
That'd be a really cool model.
Spread the seed.
And you do see it in some schools. We're not the only school. We're as Bill's talked about, we've got a heritage of rugby from the 60s, and we snowball, and we're decades into a project of trying to therefore get us to create the best opportunities, and there are some things that are in our favour. We've got lots of local rugby clubs nearby. We've got Northampton Saints that are on the doorstep that we can link with a club. So look at what's around, see what you can make work for you. There isn't a pick-up model you could put somewhere else, but there are definitely things that everybody can therefore use to improve what they currently have.
Yeah, amazing. I think we should wrap it there. Does anybody else have anything to say? Bill, your alma mater, do you want to, any other, I don't know, favourite memory from your time at the school? You mentioned, were you captain here? You mentioned that the old pavilion, the captain of rugby had his own bath, which I thought sounded pretty cool.
Yeah, the old pavilion, which is still here, was where the first 15 used to get changed. That was your ambition to be allowed to.
Right.
And the first 15 captain had his own bath.
How times have changed. Even I struggle to get my own changing room now. I have to go home and get changed afterwards. So lots of exciting things have gone, and obviously more safeguarding now than there was then.
Yes.
I want to just finish with a thank you to Luca, who's therefore changed our provision. Even this week, I've had a scenario where we picked up a knock with a boy in pre-season, and I'm able to show PE teacher, form tutor and rugby coaches immediately where he is on the return to pathway following really high quality medical care. I look forward to working again with you this year.
Cool. Thanks, Phil. Well, very, very best of luck for the season and beyond. It's going to be very fun to see what you achieve in all the national cups, and you've entered Rosslyn Park this year.
We have entered Rosslyn Park this year. There was a little bit of paperwork error last year where we got late entries and we were fortunate to get places. But yeah, you'll see us there in the magnitude that Rosslyn Park is, and it's the home of Sevens rugby, and we're looking forward to being back there. Hopefully the sunshine for the week.
End of March. Perfect. Good place to leave it. Thanks so much, guys. Cheers.
That was the Luca Health Podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, subscribe for more content like this. You can find us on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube.